Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fan fiction it inspires. Before we begin, just want to remind you to like, subscribe, follow, etc. wherever you listen to us so you don't miss any episodes or bonus stuff that we do. I'm Karlee.
I'm Sandra, and it's been a week for both of us. So we decided to try to pick something that's maybe not too heavy, but who knows where it might go. I had this idea after watching a YouTube video called The Life and Death of Fandom Platforms. And it's by Casey, I think it's Feisler is her last name. And basically they were talking about how people utilize different like fandom sites, whether they're, for fan fiction purposes or communities or social and all those different things. And I know we've kind of like talked a little bit about our fanfic journeys, but way back when, but I kind of wanted to go into some of the reasons, why we've maybe started on one platform and then moved to another, and how like our community as a whole, I think, because even though we're not a very large community, I feel like being a part of this fandom, we have our own little community that then overlaps into different circles of communities, and how that's kind of changed even over the past, 3 years since I've really gotten into the supernatural fandom. And also, I don't know, Karlee, I think we've talked about this before too. I was curious as to what the ending of Supernatural, the show, was going to mean to the fandom. And I'm kind of curious as to how maybe you think, and we'll talk about it, how the utilization of like different social platforms has kind of changed for us. And if we've seen a big change in even just like, the production of fan fiction and different things like that, like regarding Supernatural as a whole. I really think it's just continued to evolve and really turned into something that I kind of didn't really think it was going to last, I guess, as long as it has, at least to this sort of like amount, or, like the interest, I guess, is still there. And I wasn't really expecting that. I kind of felt like people were just going to move on to different things, which, like I said, we'll talk about, I think, a little bit more, but that was just kind of like, that was my initial, I guess, maybe worry, like when Supernatural ended.
People are still writing Harry Potter stuff though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The show might end, the films might end, the books might end, the whatever it is might end, but there's still that's the nature of fiction though, isn't it? It's infinite. It's you can always just pull those characters and go, oh, what if they were here, or what if they were there? You're limited only by you. And there's a lot of views out there with a lot of really great imagination. So
I like that though. And I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't expecting that to continue in a way that it has.
I wasn't expecting it to end. I didn't think, there was never any doubt in my mind that the fandom would continue, but the fanfic would continue equally. I wasn't concerned about that because I know what people are like. I know what I'm like.
I guess too, for me, it's because all right, we'll rewind a little bit. So we're going to provide like links to the YouTube video and links to
I haven't watched it. Who was surprised? Okay. Hands up if you're surprised.
Like the research paper that's related to it, which is called Moving Across Lands. And there's also we're going to do like a part 2 episode of this later at some point, where we're going to just talk about AO3 in general and our use of it. And there's also another like sort of research paper about that I figure we'll add all that stuff together, put it in the description, different things like that. But basically the paper talks about how and why people migrated over time to different fanfic platforms. And they talk about different pull and push factors. So like a pull factor might be ease of use to share content, community or the fandom interactions, valuing, welcoming communities. And then examples of push factors could be the bad design of a platform, policy changes, values that, are kind of like a part of a platform, or that you get more insight into as you continue to be on it. You kind of get what they're about a little bit more, and whether there's a transparency about it or something you have to kind of dig a little deeper to find out what's going on behind the scenes. And then there's challenges that people face when they themselves are moving to a different, say, fan fiction or community platform. They might be losing community, which I think was a thing that I was concerned about with Supernatural, losing track of people. Another thing.
It's not exactly the same, but when me and you sort of stepped away from Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really worried, but I was concerned that we were gonna, lose sort of contact with the group chats that we had on there,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that we had exclusively on Twitter that didn't necessarily want to move to the same places that we were moving to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
although that hasn't happened, there's certainly a downtick in communication versus when we would all just be like all day on Twitter in between work and stuff, just
Mm-hmm.
I saw this on the timeline, or someone posted this, and you do see it's not a loss unless you let it be a loss, but there's certainly a downtick. I miss certain things that I had when I was prevalent on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
However, Twitter is like a tunneling brain parasite.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
All of this for me with Supernatural kind of overlapped and kind of came to a head at, a very crucial time for me, with getting into the fandom like right before COVID, and then finding friendships through a really trying and traumatic time for the entire world, and being able to collectively have that as our bonding thing, like not only just survival at a basic level and how we were sometimes just going to get through the day, but what we used Supernatural for, to get us through that time, and how that became just like you said, a daily, hourly, sometimes, situation where, checking in and, oh, I heard this, oh, I heard that. Like there was nothing else, like for a long period of time, I think, for me to kind of latch onto, as being, life's going to be okay as long as I have like this part right now is helping me get through, kind of that situation.
I know COVID isn't over, but we're all, we're all over it now. It's fine, whatever. But I think it was the perfect storm in so many ways, because everyone was home. What did you have to do all day but check Twitter? So it was, and then as things sort of started opening up and people, like suddenly you weren't necessarily on Twitter all day, every day, because there were other things that you could do. Because I don't think anybody willingly is on Twitter all day, every day. Maybe we used to be before it was taken over. Less said about that, the better. But yeah, I don't know. It's because like it was COVID times when like we both met up with Dee and then kind of like met up with each other, and it's weird looking back on it now, and just seeing like Supernatural and just sharing dumb memes, and I saw this pic of Jared's hair, or with this picture of Jensen's eyes, or just getting through the day sometimes. I
think that's what's so important about. That's one of the best things about fandom communities, and there's a lot of other things that aren't that great, but that was just having that thing that you could have in common with so many different people was very comforting. All that to say, I was like, let me go back and kind of talk about my fanfic journey, and I'm also hoping that we will get to hear from some listeners too, as to how their fanfic journeys came to be, like where they started at, where they are now, whether you're a reader or a writer of fan fiction. We kind of want to hear from you all as well, And I'm sure that everybody's journey will also age them when they're discussing it. So I just figured, just rip the Band-Aid off and just kind of like realize how long I've been doing this whole fanfic stuff. I think we'd had MJ on before, and I remember she was talking about like her slam books in school and like writing stuff down in notebooks. And I think I still have, like, from the 80s, I still have notebooks of like my scribble scrabble and like, things that I would pass around. Or we had like a group of, I had a group of friends in school, and we all like New Kids on the Block. So everybody got paired up with a kid, one of the kids. And then like, I would write stories. So that's been going on since probably like maybe 86 or 87 in my brain. But when it became, I guess, more technical, and the internet got involved for me, was in the 90s. And I had utilized a lot of like websites or web rings. Have you heard of those, Karlee? Web rings?
I was a baby in the 90s.
Okay.
An actual, literal human baby.
So a web ring was something that was at the bottom of a website. And basically you could like, you'd either like whoever was in charge of the website, or, through like bulletin boards or whatever, or you'd fill out a form. You could actually do like HTML, and you could put in information about like, say, what your site was, and you'd put all this information in, and then you would, copy and paste the code at the bottom of your website. And then it would basically be like, you could click on go to the next site in this web ring. So it's like anything that was related to, for me, it was Leo. So everything that was Leo related.
You should probably quantify that.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Sorry, I can't. I forgot. I forgot there might be other Leos. Leonardo DiCaprio, 90s. Leonardo DiCaprio. If you're from that time, you know all of that.
I was a literal human baby at the time, but DVDs exist. I got eyeballs with the 90s heartthrob bangs.
The hair was like all over. Like that was like the thing. Once that started in Romeo and Juliet and Titanic, Jared had that hair. Jensen had that hair big time in Days of Our Lives. Everybody had that hair. The bangs were a thing. They were a thing back then. So good. So it was kind of like a little web ring at the bottom. So like you could click and you could go to another person that was in your ring of whatever it was that you enjoyed, or were like, part of the fandom kind of situation. So that's kind of how you could, I guess, get lost in a fandom that way. And I would use like, I had something I'd call it, I wish I could find it. I wish I had any of this information, but I used GeoCities, which was like a website hosting platform. It's not around anymore, but I came up with this really great name, Encyclopedia. That's my website name. And that's so good. Like I did like, and that's when I kind of got into, HTML, and I had, I made friends with fanfic. I literally, this is how insane, like, I think we were back then. And we just had so much trust in people. I literally, like, we would do like, I became friends with people online. We became pen pals. And I remember her name is Jackie. I don't remember her last name. And there was another friend that we made. She came down from New York when The Beach was getting ready to premiere. And she stayed at a hotel. She was like 20 years older than me. She met my mom, all this kind of stuff. And it was another friend. And we all went to the movies together. And we watched it like twice. So we stayed there all day. And it was just this thing. So I guess I've just had this thing about where, I can't just find somebody local that shares in my interest. They have to be either in like another whole country or like, 7 states away. And I remember doing like a collab with a friend. Her name was Mel, down in Florida. And we would like write fanfic together, and then we would post it, or, we would like email it back and forth, and I would do like a page and she would do a page. And so it's like, it was this thing, that we just did. And they were all great, super people, but I wouldn't even know where to start to find them right now. But it was that bond that we had. And it was great. It was great to share that. So that's kind of where full on, I think my fanfic kind of started in the 80s. got back, I don't know, injected again in the late 90s. And I kind of stopped again. And I got back into writing again. I've got my little like timeline that I wrote out. So from like 2014 to 2016 is when I got back into fanfic writing because I had a story actually related to the beach that I'd never finished, but I'd always kind of thought it was really good. And it was about 4 or 5 chapters in. And this is when I'd also started writing, some original fiction and was trying to get it published and all that. And I finished it and I was like, well, what do I do with this story now? So I went looking online and I found Wattpad. And I liked Wattpad initially. I just liked the layout and the visual aspect of it. It just seemed very easy for me, and kind of like straightforward. There was, I think, fanfiction.net, which I tried for a little bit, but I don't know. There was maybe too much texty about it that I was kind of like, I'd already been and done that like back in the 90s. And I was like, I don't need all these bulletin board things again. Like I didn't want that. I just wasn't big on that anymore. I wanted something flashy. I wanted something jazzy. It's like, oh, you can make little covers and things like that. And I was like, it got all of my creative juices, I guess, like flowing. So I used Wattpad a lot and I liked the interaction part of it a little bit better too. I think there was something on Wattpad where somebody could even just highlight like a certain section that they liked in your work and could comment. So you knew exactly what they were commenting about, like in the story. I don't know if they still do that. I haven't used Wattpad since about 2016, but I'm sure they've done a lot more with the platform since then. I wasn't really a part of any fandom, back then. It was really just me wanting to get some of my old, work about Leo out. And there was it wasn't big. I think One Direction was the big thing at the time on Wattpad. So I was, totally like in the smaller percentage of fandom situations. So, I did write, fun fact, I've never actually written a Titanic fanfic. Like I've written everything else, but not Titanic for some reason. So, because that was all over, that was everywhere.
You didn't want to put a reader on a sinking ship and have a really dramatic, I'll always love you ending.
No, because I cried enough at the movie itself with that. So I didn't need to write about that at the time. Now, of course, I'm all about angst and stuff. So yeah. So the whole thing, like, never wrote a Titanic fanfic. So again, like I stopped writing fan fiction when I was doing like the Wattpad stuff, probably like end of 2015. And then like all together by 2016, because that's when I was having to work on my original fiction, trying to get that stuff published. So that was kind of where my free time was going. So then Supernatural came into my life. Beginning 2019, didn't really start to get to be a big deal till maybe like October 2019. That's when I started to get curious and I was like, oh, I wonder if people are writing fan fiction about Supernatural.
One of the dumbest questions anybody's ever asked.
Yeah.
Not that you're dumb, but like.
Apparently I have a lot of them because I was like, I wrote down like, holy hell in a handbasket. I'm like, what the heck did I stumble into? So like I started to, consume a lot of things briefly, like on fanfiction.net, even though, at that point I hadn't been writing anything. So, and then I'm one of those people that when I read an author that I like, I'll tend to find out like, well, do they have anything else on their profile? Like just some information about them. So when I got onto fanfiction.net, that's when I saw that some authors said that they were on Tumblr and then they might have been on AO3. And I was like, well, what the heck is Tumblr? So then I went into Tumblr and then I was like, oh,
and you quickly left Tumblr.
I left.
Oh, fuck no.
I found more people. So because I am in the minority of, I think, ships and pairings, the dean/reader or like reader insert stuff, I found certain authors on Tumblr that way. But then they started, saying, oh, I've also got something on AO3. Then I moved into AO3. And that's when I really kind of never, not that I haven't gone back to the other platforms, but AO3 just became my my home base because I loved the layout of it. I liked learning how to sort and filter, to find the stories and authors. It was so much easier by in and of itself being an archive rather than, if you happen to see something on Tumblr that this one person that you follow, maybe reblogs another story by somebody else. So then I would have like bookmarks of like Tumblr pages, in my web browser of like different people that I could go back to their particular page and then I could like go through their master list on Tumblr. But Tumblr in and of itself it was just so difficult to break into. So I was very much a lurker there. And I would just but I wouldn't necessarily reblog stuff. I would read things and I would just kind of have certain authors that I loved on there. But then AO3 became this, oh my God, look at all the stuff that they have. And probably read that
Yeah, you've written in your Sandra has an outline of all her points because she's so prepared. Get ready when it's my go, guys. But you've written down AO3 was a library of never-ending SPN fanfiction, which is, I think that's one of the best ways to describe AO3. I know it's an archive, and I know like a library is an archive, but that's really, but instead of having to go up to the librarian who you really don't want to talk to because you're really stressed and go, hi, the internet says you have the book, but I've looked on the shelf and I can't find it. So, but yes, instead of having to go and fess up to the library person that you don't know how the fucking library works, you get to just like click boxes and input tags and stuff. But that's how, now you said it, like you see it like that. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. You just go, I want to see this.
Yeah.
And it's just a library and this is there.
Yeah.
I do think that quality is what gives AO3 the edge. I know there's an enormous supernatural like fanfic community on Tumblr. I'm sure it's out there in other places, but I do think that's what gives AO3 the edge is that you can sort and filter in that way. You could just go, I only want to see Dean Reader, Sam Winstead, Destia, whatever. And that's all you'll see. You don't have to, like you say, scroll 1,000 fucking miles through Tumblr or anywhere else that fanfics exist. I miss libraries.
I like the library in the bunker too, because they actually do have like in the corner there's that little like card catalog with like the little index, the little drawers. And I'm just like, like I wonder what Sam has, if he's like ever gone in there and like updated certain things, or when he adds a book, does he put in a new card for like the card catalog and stuff like that? So I imagine that he does that.
And it's funny to be, deep in my nostalgia feels about a library when we're talking about an archive of porn on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still like, it did like, obviously AO3 doesn't conjure kind of feeling to me. I'll be real awkward to post if it did. I'm like, oh no, I'm offending somebody. But it's just, I don't know. I think I'm nostalgic for libraries now, but it's digitized, it's modern, it's 2023. But the spirit is still there,
Yeah.
The concept of just filing things in a way that makes sense, so you can find them.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons. While I have a Tumblr, and I do click buttons on Tumblr and things happen, it is not a place I go to read because it's too wild. I can't. There's no method of sorting things. You just have to just cast out into the wilderness and see what you find.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah. Like once I kind of like outlined, okay, what was my journey through these different platforms? I kind of went, okay, like what challenges or how did I interact with fandom and the communities, as I was searching or as I was on my own kind of like fanfic journey. So I kind of wrote that, really of all the different places that I hopped around to, I didn't feel like I was part of any kind of community until I found AO3, which is, doesn't really make a lot of sense because the platform itself, it's not the easiest way to connect with others. But I felt a sense of being accepted. And because I, started posting, that was the first place I felt, okay, I'm going to try to post my stuff. I well, no, I can't say that. I started posting stuff on Tumblr, but it didn't go anywhere. Like, and I think it was because I didn't have the community there. Where on AO3, I started getting, positive responses from my work. And again, going back, connecting on AO3 has a whole bunch of issues because someone has to take the time. First of all, they've got to update their profile if they want to give other people a way to be found or contacted outside of AO3. Not everybody does that. So like if I'd found an author I liked, I would click just joined. Tells you when they joined. Like, like not usually a lot of stuff. Or there's got to be a continuous back and forth in the comments section between, the person commenting and then the creator in order to find a way to connect. And I will still say to this day how grateful I am for Dandelion Dreaming to have left her email in the comments and the messages that we did back and forth, because that's what then, connected me to her via email, then on Twitter. Then that's how, I met you through Dandelion Dreaming. And that's why we're here right now. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now, is because of that willingness to want to continue a conversation outside of just some comments. Comments are great, but if there's no outside of that, it's very just housed in this little box. Kristen's another one, that when she, comments up a storm, but, then, messaged her and, she's like, oh, I'm here on Twitter if you want to find me. And then, had that connection that way. So the other option for like community part, in the beginning for me was Tumblr, but it had such a huge learning curve. Creating a blog, posting, creating a master list took a lot of time. And as much as I love HTML, sometimes I didn't want to spend, forever just posting my text. I wanted to get it out and done, but then you had to like add certain things to it. So if you were adding a really long story, you didn't want to like have it show up on somebody's feed for like pages and pages and pages. So you had to add a break and different things like that. So AO3 by comparison, you could literally just copy and paste from your Google Doc to the AO3. You just got to type in, things about it, tags, what it's about, summary, and it's got so many awesome things about it. To this day, the fact that you can download a work and I can put it on my Kindle, I love that. I absolutely love that. I have a library of fan fictions that, I want to keep. Like, I don't think AO3 is going anywhere, but if it does for some reason, I have these works on my Kindle that I can always go back to. I have the doc saved somewhere. So if I wanted to, I have another place I could put it. So for that reason, like the community aspect of fandom, even though it was hard to make a lasting connection on AO3, then got expanded for me on Twitter. But I've had my fill of Twitter for various reasons. And, another day, maybe we'll have a whole topic about that. But the other option available now more recently, that I found out about was like Discord. Again, it's a great way to converse or communicate with people, but it's also overwhelming. And it doesn't really overlap. Things are kind of siloed into channels. You have to know that somebody has a Discord to get into that community. I know you can do searching and stuff like that, but even that to me is an overwhelming kind of process. And I don't even know if you can even I don't think you can see every channel if it's a private channel, all these kinds of things. So since Twitter's kind of no longer my main source of communication for the fandom, I found myself back on Tumblr a little bit more. I found that they've done some changes and tweaks to it, which for me, posting is a little bit easier. It doesn't seem as hard. And I think because of the connections we've made, Karlee, I think through doing the podcast has kind of like opened me up to other parts of the fandom, that I necessarily maybe wouldn't have had that connection with before. I've really got to do a shout out to SPN FanFic Pond. And
we've had them on before.
We've had them on before. Michelle, who's like the administrator mod, like, you know, does a lot of things with a lot of other moderators there. Does a really I think the podcast is a lot to do, but my God, like the things that they have to do on the fanfic pond, it's amazing. They've created a community, a place where it's very welcoming, very encouraging. They do a lot of things to keep the fandom engaged and the fanfic authors writing, and they provide, you know, they'll provide help with, like, you know, inspiration. They do writing sprints. They do all sorts of these great things. So if you've listened to us and you are a reader or writer of supernatural fan fiction and you haven't gone to the pond yet, I'd suggest you do that. We'll leave a link in the description too, because I think you'll find there's something for everyone in the supernatural fanfic world there. And again, I like that there's not this negativity there. It just seems very welcoming. And that's important.
It's a lovely place.
Yeah.
And also, if you like enter their competitions and stuff, you could win. And you have your pick of prizes. And one of those prizes is that our lovely Sandra will narrate something of your choice.
Yeah. And I've loved that because I've been, I think I've done like 3 or 4 of them now. And I love that I get to narrate things outside of like what I would normally read. You know, I've done. You've
had a Samstiel one.
I've done a Samstiel one. I've done a Destiel one. There's one that'll be coming out probably around the time this comes out. Gadriel and Dean Winchester, and
qualifying statement: Gadriel in his own
own vessel. So in like
not
the guy,
possessed Sam.
It's a human AU. Panica.
Yeah. Tamoa. It's Gadriel in his own vessel. It's not. Yeah. It's not Winchester Jason.
No.
Gadriel Dean.
No.
There's no. No Sam.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a great way to just kind of like connect with other authors of different ships and pairings and what they enjoy about supernatural. And I just love that there's an inherent respect there that I just don't think that, I think it's lacking in other quote unquote community, parts of Supernatural's fan base. And they do a good job of like just being so helpful and encouraging. And I've won a couple writing sprints, and I've gotten to have like some of my works sort of like highlighted, which that's important to me because I don't, I'm not the, again, best marketer, and knowing that it'll go out to a community of people that might like it, it kind of opens that up, and it, I enjoy that. I enjoy that part of it. And yeah, they're awesome. They're an awesome group. But
they are good people.
All that to say, I think all that one video was like, I just think we should break that down as to like what we've kind of learned from our fanfic journeys and community. So Karlee, passing it over to you, because your fanfic journey, I'm sure, is much different and started at a quite a different time than mine did. So I think you will probably take over most of the 2000s where I was pretty much not doing anything.
That is very true. So I am a millennial. I am born in 91. So my journey with writing and fan fiction and all that good stuff is probably very different to Sandra's journey. So I started reading fan fiction when I would have been about 13, 14 maybe.
I feel like that's the age, right? I feel like that's the age.
Yeah, because you kind of my taste in fanfiction have always run to explicit. I've never particularly been interested in stories that don't have fucking in them. I'll be straight about it. Like you could get them in the library, you could buy them in the bookstore, and at the time of like, around the age of 14, those weren't books that I could access because my mum had enough shit fits about me leaving books around the house and books in the bathroom. I got told off about that a lot. So leaving books in the bathroom, Karlee. And I was reading like horror books at the time.
Okay.
Although I wouldn't particularly consider them, well, no, James Herbert. I've always been a big James Herbert fan. So, and she wasn't into this. My mom didn't like horror in any capacity. So she'd be like, "Stop leaving these fucking awful books in the bathroom. What's wrong with you? I won't fucking see this." Books with like sexual adult content in them were not things that I could access, and we didn't have. I don't think we had internet at the time. I don't think we did. I got internet a lot later than my friends.
Okay.
So I started my fanfic journey with, as I'm sure a lot of people of my age did, with Harry Potter. Always Harry Potter. Yay, Harry Potter. And
my
I would
brother's
go,
the same age as you, so I'm quite aware of the Harry Potter. Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mistakes were made, but I don't think they were, because it was a pivotal part of my adolescence, you know, and I can look back on the story now with adult 2023 eyes and go, oh, fuck me, there were so many red flags in that. But at the time, you know,
yeah.
So I would like go to like friends' houses and print off fanfic and stuff like that, and like this was how I would access my fanfic. So I started off on a website called I've mentioned it before, actually, adult fanfiction it was either .org, .net, or .com. I will find out.
Okay.
So when we got internet at our house, it was .org. It was .org, guys. It's adult-fanfiction.org.
Okay.
And this was where I started my journey. And then, so I'm a millennial. I'm a teenager in the early 2000s. I have a dark sense of humor. What did I turn out to be in high school? An emo, of course. You all know it, guys. I had a side fringe and a red streak. And I wore band t-shirts, and, you know, I've had various facial piercings, and I wore jeans with chains on them, and oh god, it was horrendous. Terrible eyeliner. Terrible eyeliner. It was a bad time in my life. So we don't look back at that. But I'd moved on from Harry Potter by this point. And I was looking at the kind of, depending what kind of emo you were, depended on like what kind of emo bands you were into. Because some people like the screamo stuff, and some people like things a little bit more legible. Maybe what's the audio equivalent of legible?
Understandable.
Whatever that is, whatever the audio equivalent of legible is, some people like that. I was in the latter. Like, don't get me wrong, I can rock out to a good death metal song. It's fine. But that wasn't my musical choice. So I was into bands like My Chemical Romance, The Used, Avenged Sevenfold, Ian, who aren't technically emo before anybody comes with comments, I'm aware. But those are the kind of things, like, that was the kind of music I was into. And, you know, it's the sort of like early 2000s, around the time Supernatural was starting to air, actually, which is horrifically awful. You know, we're all looking at like Kerrang magazine and stuff like that, and oh my god, these band guys are so dreamy, blah 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 blah. Like various poster walls in my bedroom, terribly cringe. But these fan fiction of these bands wasn't on adultfanfiction.org, so I was like, okay, well, I need to. So
what did they have on there?
So they had, it was more like films, and book series stuff, like films and TV shows. So I was like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, any kind of like any books or book series that I was reading at the time. Hey, is there any porn of this? I've been a fiend like all my life, guys, all my life. But these kind of bands, like there was some on there, but there weren't like a lot on there. So I don't remember like if I went looking or if like I got directed to it by somebody. I've never had, up until like meeting Daniel and Dreaming and you, I've never had like writer friends, or even like fanfic reader friends. All of my friends who are aware that I do this are kind of like, if that makes you happy, just move on with the day. And that's very much always been the case. So I can't remember how I moved from AFF to the new site. Excuse me. And I will fess up the site, but I will not be giving out any usernames or anything, because A, my account is still active on there. Well, A, the site is still active. B, my account is still active on there, and C, my shit is still on there. So I won't be fessing up any usernames or anything. Also, it was terribly, terribly cringy, embarrassing teenage username. So moving on. But I moved to a website called mibba.com. So that's MIBBA.com.
Okay.
And this was very, very focused on music fanfic, band fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I started off writing like the frontman of My Chemical Romance and the frontman of The Used. But I never, like, I intended it to be an explicit story, but I've never pulled the trigger on it being explicit.
Okay.
I never got there. I just abandoned the work before that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some reader insert stuff on there. So, like, the first thing I posted on there was, I'll tell you when it went up, because that was... but I first published it in 2008. It went up, and there was it was last up. It went up in February 2008, and it was last updated in June 2008, and there were 40 chapters. So I wrote that like a fucking demon.
Wow,
it was like 33,000 words as well. It's not short.
Okay,
it's fucking beast. I used to write it at college in between because I left high school in 2007, so I was in college at that time. And I used to write in a library in between lessons.
Okay.
I would go to the library and be like, I'm going to do homework. This is homework. But yeah, I started writing that. And I did some collabs with, I made friends on there, like kind of in a similar way that you do on AO3, just like exchanging comments and stuff. And then like add each other on Facebook and, all that kind of stuff. And these were friendships that like grew and bloomed and, were. And then you just drift apart as you get older, and life happens. But I'd done like some collab stuff with some people on that, and I moved away from My Chemical Romance and The Used stuff to Avenged Sevenfold, and I wrote quite a lot of Avenged Sevenfold stuff, mostly because that band is 5 people of hot people, and I don't know what to tell y'all. They're all really fucking hot. I don't know. I mean, one of them is deceased, but he was really hot before I died.
Oh, okay.
So I stuck with them for a while, and that was the first time I like dabbled my hand at male fanfic romance, all really explicit. And I look back at it now, all of my works were like first person, so the reader insert was first person, and then when I'd moved on to writing like character stuff, that was still first person. I was just like a little baby writer. I was still my own main character, no matter what name I put on it.
Right.
But looking back, wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't awful. Oh, I feel like you didn't even talk about if you think your old stuff was good, and I'm like, it was fine.
It was some of it was really bad. Like the stuff from when I was really younger, I was just like, oh, like I look at it and it's always funny to watch, to look at your handwriting too, like when you're really younger and like depending on like the mood or whatever. And also being left-handed, like I feel like I never quite got the hang of like the direction of the book. Like the whole thing about like writing left-handed is a whole thing for me. Like depending on which way I decided to rotate my notebook, like my writing would look a little bit different. So, I've done like really weird stuff with my writing, and it's just like you could tell the different times, like, when I would be writing, like that's obviously something was going on there and then something was going on there. But it was okay. It was cringy when I was younger, but again, I think it got better over time, but yeah, it was okay. I think the one I'm probably the most proud of was fanfic wise before Supernatural probably would have been like the one that I wrote for the beach. That one became like a book, that was long, and I felt like I got into the character with that.
Was it a reader insert? Did you pair Leo with someone from the...
No, it was a reader insert. It was a reader insert, which was interesting to put it in, again, like put it in canon, but, work a character in a little bit, but then change the outcome a little bit based off of that.
Yeah, because that film doesn't... it ends okay, but it's grim.
Yeah.
Before the end, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So hey, if you still have a copy of that, shoot it over to me because I love that movie.
It's on my AO3. Yeah. It's on my AO3 under another suit. Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Yeah. It's in there.
For the love of God!
It's in there. I did not want it. I did not want it to. It was under Drasna for a while, and then I just changed the name because I didn't want that to kind of get mixed in with all the supernatural stuff that I did.
Well, I didn't.
So.
I've gone through your catalog, and I didn't fucking even think about looking for that. I'm gonna go find it and read it now.
Yeah, but that's like okay. That's still like that was done like years before. Like again, and it was a stop or start thing where I started it and then started it again. So yeah, do with it what you will.
It's publicly available on the internet. You cannot stop me.
No, I can't. It's there.
It's there. I'm gonna go find it. I'm actually looking at my like my dashboard, if you will, on this site. And I remember I never told my mom what I was writing, just that I was writing. And like one of the stories that I'd written, which was a reader insert, it didn't get like really popular, but it got like a little bit popular. And I remember telling my mom, like, oh my God, like 1,000 people have read it, and like it's like AO3, so it's like 1,000 people have clicked on it, But I remember getting really excited. I was like, oh my God, Mom, there's like 1,000 people, like 1,250 people. And I remember her bragging to family that so many people had read this thing that I had written it. She had no idea what it was. But she was just like, my baby did a thing and people like thing. As I was kind of progressing, and I moved over to like Avenged Sevenfold stuff. And like moving over to that stuff was when I was like, okay, like male stuff. And there was a brief dalliance with a band called Death Stars, but those were they were more not commission fics, but like fics that were written for friends who were like, hey, you should write these two together. I like the band, but I wasn't particularly like massively a fan of the band members. So, and that was kind of, I'd written, I don't know how many stories there are. It doesn't tell me. Oh, no, it did. 14 stories. And there were a couple more that I deleted, and I don't know if I could ever like get them back, but I can't say I'm fussed about it. And then in 2011, I was blessed with a baby. So that quickly put an end to that. So the last thing I posted on Mibba was in 2012, and my eldest would have been maybe like 6 months old. Yeah, he would have been about 6 months old at the time. So I just didn't have the time to write anymore. I'd moved out. I had my own house to run. My baby was like 6 months old, and they were just getting, I don't know how much experience you have with 6 month old babies, but they don't fucking sit still and let you write. Let me tell you that for nothing. They're busy. They're chewing curtains and I don't know, throwing shoes, all kinds of shit. And it just fell to the wayside. I just never, I don't know. I just stopped posting.
It just kind of, it's like you said, it has a place in your life, and then it just kind of like stops for various reasons. Yeah.
And that was, I didn't kind of like read any fanfic or anything. I just kind of just put it down and moved on with my life for a few years. Not as many years as I thought, as it turns out, because we leave Mibba behind, and it's changed massively from what it was when I was there. And I was only ever in like the places that I was in, so it was very much like now. I didn't just go off and like search. I searched within things I was already interested in. So within bands that I was already interested in, or like concepts that I was already interested in, like the fandoms I follow in AO3 now are things I'm already interested in. I don't just like hit wild search on AO3 and just see what comes up. I have to know the characters first. And I'm sure there's some amazing original fiction out there on AO3, but I just don't, I don't know. I've never been like, those whole blind date with a book things give me so much anxiety. I'm like, oh no, but you don't know. I can't just pick up a fucking book and just, oh no. No.
Yeah.
So we leave Mibba completely behind. We're pretty much done with AFF at this point. and just life was just happening. And I actually went back to find out, like, as far back in my history as I could go with AO3, and I'm pretty sure that I don't know how I heard about AO3 because I never did Tumblr or anything like that. Tumblr for me went the way of like Vine and Snapchat in another social media that I don't need. It didn't offer me anything. I had a MySpace, cringe, and I had Facebook, and I don't even think I had a Twitter until maybe like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
And I had, as far as I was concerned, these were all the social medias that I needed.
Yeah.
I didn't need another social media. Who needs Tumblr? It's not easy to get into Tumblr. I feel like there's not, like, you have to search for things. Things just don't appear at you, you know? So
Which I think a lot of people sometimes like, because it's like you're not getting like in this algorithm thing, but I feel like that's changed on Tumblr a little bit now too. Like it's a little bit more like suggested for you, or like you can break it up with following and then like for you, right? Like kind of like the way Twitter is set up. And then they have a great thing now, like tags, where if you mark certain tags, then like if I do Dean Times Reader or Dean Winchester Smut, then I can go into that and that's, oh, look, here's all this stuff that has the tags that people have tagged.
Yeah, but then like if you do like Dean Winchester Smut, you could end up with like,
you can end up with anything. Yeah, you can end up with anything. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
stressful to me.
Absolutely.
That's stressful to me. But it's, I don't know, there's something about, I like things to link on, and I feel like Tumblr doesn't necessarily do that. So, Tumblr's very much like you either have everything or you have the one thing that you looked for. There's no middle ground. So it's like AO3,
almost like, user engagement has to be like the person using it on the other end almost has to be very intentional as to how they tag things or whatever, so that the other person, if they're searching, will find certain things. It's this weird mix of like, you're not just getting fed it, like you've got to kind of like, it's a weird combo of stuff, which on some days I used to like just be on there for a long time because it was just like Dean Winchester, like just pictures if I had certain people that I followed. So I always knew I could go there and I'd get my fill the way that I wanted, like one way or another, with the gifts and the pictures and all that sort of stuff. So it
just didn't for me. So I don't know how I came over AO3. I probably, knowing who I am as a person, I probably searched for something, and I won't out myself on what that something was because I did find it on AO3. But I probably searched for something and was like fan fiction or fanfic after that, and it brought me to AO3. And you could read as a guest on AO3. Cool, so read as a guest, and I must have wanted an account because I requested one. You can't just make an account with AO3. You have to be invited, which is a little bit okay, but whatever. So I requested an invite and I waited, and then I was in and I made an account, and it's it's all good. It's all good. So the very first thing I read on AO3, and again, I will not out myself. I will say it was a popular gaming group on YouTube. And that is all I will say.
Okay.
And there are loads of them, so nobody will be able to figure it out. But it was in August of 2015.
Okay.
So that's when I started on AO3, and then I never left. So there was this YouTube gaming group and American Horror Story that are like the first things that I was looking at reading. And we're talking like, that would have been like maybe around like season 3 or 4 of American. It was Evan Peters, all right? Don't come at me. It was Evan Peters. That man is very fucking handsome. I don't know what to tell you. So I was basically just searching for like Evan Peters stuff and his various characters that he played in American Horror Story. And, still going back to this group. And I kind of, I don't think I spent from 2015 to now on AO3. I think I dipped in and out because I've just gone back like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 pages in my history, and we've jumped from 15 to 20. So 17. Yeah, so I wasn't big on AO3. I was just kind of like dipping in and out, And I vividly remember searching AO3 for Big Bang Theory fanfics.
Okay.
Because I was curious. Not because I wanted to read it, just because I was like, is it out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was. So then I remember at the time being like, do you know how many Sheldon Leonard fanfics are on the internet? To my husband, and he was like, that is disgusting. And I was like, no, it isn't. Shut up. But yeah, so it's kind of just like kind of in and out of AO3 up until, when did we post? 2021 we posted. So I'm looking now, I was into The Hobbit in 2020, I think 2020 was probably when I like kind of hardcore jumped into AO3, and I was looking at like Hannibal, the TV show, not the movies, with Hugh Dancy and Mads Mikkelsen. The Hobbit, various like the Hobbit actors in The Hobbit. Oh, characters. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I've been at work all week. It's been a long week.
It's been a week.
So I'm in Supernatural in 2020. So
yeah, we posted in 2020 our collab.
I thought it was 2021.
No, it was 2020.
Shut up. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Oh my God. Well, it is. I'm January of 2020, and I'm looking at Supernatural. I'm trying to find the first Supernatural. So we got The Hobbit, deleted. Dean Winchester Reader. So it's January. Just the way it works. I don't know what to say. It was like The Hobbit on the 16th of January. 4 deleted works on the 18th. Dean Winchester Reader on the 19th of January 2020. I can pinpoint the fucking date. And I would have been watching the show at that point. And I remember going, I'm not going to search this in AO3 because I'm not going to search this in AO3. I don't want to, like, I'll never be able to watch the show again because I'll just see them as like just sex things. I'll never be able to watch the plot anymore. So the first thing I ever read, assuming that one of these deleted works wasn't a Supernatural thing, it's a Dean Winchester Reader. So I don't know. I guess you could haul me over the coals for the first thing I read being Dean, and as I haul you over for Jared being the person that brought you into Supernatural, and then you abandoned him.
Fair. We'll have that for each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm potentially going to go back and go and reread some of these, but yeah, it's Dean Reader, Sam Reader, that kind of stuff. So that was where we were in 2020, and I broke my vow that I wasn't going to go and look for fanfic because, oh God, I'd never be able to say, oh my God, there's a Benny one in there. Holy shit. I was Castiel in there. Oh, that was part of a series. That's why I don't think I went. Yeah, the Benny one was part of an Imagine series as well. I don't think I went searching for Benny.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'd broken my rule that I wasn't going to go and look for Supernatural fanfic. And then I wasn't going to go and look for Wincest. Then I wasn't going to go and look for Wincest. And honestly, that kind of carries us over nicely to, obviously, in my Dean Reader searches. I think I was reading Dean Reader because there wasn't that much Sam Reader at the time. Because I promise you guys, I have not been lying to you for like a year and a half. I was in for Sam from the very fucking beginning. I swear to you. I wasn't lured in by the hair and then went, oh, fuck me, Dean, though. I was always in for Sam, but I just don't think there was that much Sam stuff at the time, or maybe not Sam stuff that I wanted to read. With like 2 pages of Dean stuff now, so honestly, this is embarrassing. I need to find something Sam related immediately.
Well, it could have been too just something that you just clicked and you're like, nah, and then probably just moved on to something else and then just kept trying,
Oh, do you remember not 2 minutes ago me going, I wasn't going to read Wincest?
How soon was it?
The day after.
You're like, I'm done with Dean/Reader. Come on, let me see.
No. In my defense, it's just one Wincest, and it's like it's in the reader stuff. But I found a Sam one. A Sam one on the same day. On the same day that I started looking, I found a Sam one. And it's actually a Wincest threesome. No, just a Winchester threesome.
Okay.
Nothing between Sam and Dean. Just
okay.
Lots of Kitten of Doomage stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been pretty good. Yeah. Nope, it's right there. 20th of January. Sam and Dean Winchester. I'm gonna fucking go and read that again. See what it was about that enticed me. But yeah, somewhere in all this Dean stuff, I found the Rookie series by our lovely D. And I mean, the rest is history. I've detailed it before. Like Sandra was exchanging comments with D like all the time. We exchanged Twitter though. So I had Twitter at the time. And I don't think I bullied Sandra onto Twitter, but when D came to me, because I wasn't writing anything at the time, and I'd said to her that I used to write and I was maybe thinking about it, but so she I'm not saying she bullied me into it because she did. I very much could have said no, but she was like, "Oh, I've written this Sam thing, but I don't know. Like, is it too much? Is it too melodrama?" So I read it, and it was like gut wrenching, and I was like, "No, it's perfect." Like into you, and she was like, "Good, I had an idea." She was like, "I think we should make this a 3-part, and I'll write the reader bit, and you can write it from Sam's perspective, and I'll get Sandra to write it from Dean's perspective." And I didn't know who you were at that time. And I was like, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
And then
that wasn't awkward at all. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never first of all, to get introduced to somebody and then to be like, oh, we're all going to collab together. That's a frightening experience because you don't know what's going to happen with the writing process. And if you've never exchanged a lot of back and forth with another individual, it's like, this could go really well, or this could go really badly. Like this could just not work out. I was scared. Were you scared? I was scared. Yes. I was scared of it. Yes. Especially just working with Dee on something too. Cause having read her stuff, I was just
she was like godlike. She was on a pedestal, and I was like, I can't. Yeah. I can't rise up to this level.
Yeah.
I really can't. It's okay. I found so much Sam stuff now. I feel so much better. I feel so much better now. But yeah, so there was an email thread, and I don't like email threads at the best of times. And an email thread between 3 people, it was a lot. And I was like, can we make a fucking group chat on Twitter, guys? I can't. This is stressing me out. I need a group chat. So we made a group chat, and then the rest really is history from there. We wrote and posted A Perfect Day, and then it just went from there. And I was a couple of weeks after A Perfect Day, and I'd written whatever the fuck I called it, Rainy Night by the Fire, I think, which was a Sam Winchester reader. And I consider myself really fortunate because I already had cheerleaders. So there's a lot of anxiety that comes with posting works anywhere, really. Yeah. And it's still, you still worry. They're like little babies, and you let them go into the world, and you think, oh no, what if everyone hates them? That's my baby,
or just ignores them. That's the kind of the big thing too. Not that I think when you write, you write primarily for yourself, but then when you decide you want to share it, when there isn't something immediately for some reason it just hasn't caught or doesn't catch somewhere, it kind of makes you like, oh, it is just me, in this little bubble. So like I said, AO3 was really great that way, where, not that it happened right away for me, but, just the fact that I could see some people were actually reading the A View to a Winchester, kind of, made my heart happy. And I was and then getting the first comment. That first comment is just over the moon. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, somebody likes what I wrote. And yeah, that's a lot of bravery involved, I think, with the writing that a lot of people don't necessarily understand if you haven't done it, and you don't, because to some extent, you're bearing your soul, because it's coming out of you, whatever this creation is. It could go lots of different ways. So yeah.
Yeah, it is difficult, and there is always a worry, that like, what if it's not going to be, what if the fandom is just not going to, just not going to vibe with it. But that was always allayed for me, because I always knew no matter what, I would have you and D in my comments cheering me on. And I was like, I know at least 2 people are going to like this. And that was actually, I was really reassuring. So I do consider myself really lucky, because I know you and D kind of just posted out into the world. And it was, those kind of relationships come later on. But I always had you guys in my corner. And I was like, there will be at least 2 kudos on this and at least 2 comments. Yes.
But then you got, you got braver, and you found your niche, and you ran with that, and you did the thing, and now look at you. And now look at you.
Yeah.
Now look at you.
And now I am a prolific, I'm not a prolific Wincest writer, but I'm now more comfortable writing Wincest. That was scary though. Like the first Wincest I put out there, I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Because I knew you'd still be around. I knew you'd still be like, this is great. But I don't know, that was just like a whole different beast. But I've never, like, have you ever like looked into any other fandoms on AO3? Have you ever like searched for any other I'm sure there's Leonardo DiCaprio stuff on AO3 or like the beach or whatever.
You know what? It was weird when I set up the fandom, like when I was looking up the fandom, I couldn't find anything beach. I think I created something for the beach, because I don't think it was in there in movies and films. So I don't even know if there's anything else in there. I couldn't find it. I didn't really look, because I mean, like, I think at that point I was kind of like, I'm fully invested in Supernatural. No. And
you're the only one. You're the only one.
So I read some, anything Jensen related. So I even like read some Dark Angel stuff like on there. So Dark Angel. And again, like when you get into sort of like these cult shows, it's amazing some of the creativity and the talent behind some, like,
oh yeah,
just, and the amount of writing that someone will put into it, and how detailed and how immersive. And so, and I've done, I've read some Soldier Boy stuff. I've read some Bo Arlen from Big Sky, but nothing really like Supernatural. I just haven't. Yeah.
See, I kind of like, I'll go through phases where I'll want, like, so I have like favorited tags. So I wouldn't say I'm in any of these fandoms, but they're kind of like fandoms I dip into. So the Hannibal TV show, Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter. Oh yes. The Walking Dead, even though I ditched the show and I haven't watched any of the spin-offs and stuff like that's really difficult actually, because it was Daryl Dixon, Norman Reedus, that I was like, yes, all of this. And then he turned out to be a big creep. And now I can't read it and I can't watch it, because now I'm looking at him going, oh, you're icky. But Supernatural real person fiction, which is pretty like it's just Jared and Jensen. It's just Sam and Dean under different names. I don't particularly branch out in that. Mass Effect, which is a video game. I'm not even going to be embarrassed about that. Fuck you. Shepard. No Shepard without Vicarian. Come on, fight me. BJ will get that reference.
Yes. Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. No Shepard without Vicarian. Fuck that ending. Breaking Bad. It's Aaron Paul, guys. Look, I am a sucker for little blonde twink boys. All right? Evan Peters, Aaron Paul, leave me alone. I like little blonde twink boys. Leave me alone. The Hobbit, again, the Hobbit actors, the Hobbit characters. It's Baggins' Shield, okay? It just is. It just is. Just is. But yeah, so
yeah, that's how
our fanfic journeys devolve into like where we are as writers now, which I think is. I'm not saying every fanfic reader's journey has to end at writing, you know, because I don't think it does. I think you can be a reader, an enjoyer of this form of literature forever and ever and ever more. But I do think once you start writing, it changes that journey. It becomes, you're no longer a reader because I imagine it must be like if you're a really big movie fan and then you start working on movies or TV shows.
See what happens behind the scenes with it.
You see behind the set dressing. So you kind of, as much as I am still, you know, an avid consumer of fan fiction and I read it voraciously, I like little things like my eyes are more tuned to grammar errors and things like that. Or, you know, as a reader, you can read a sentence and go, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. But as a writer now, my brain goes, it should be like this, or I would have worded it like this. And it's different. It's not bad, but it's different. And it does kind of dims the magic a little bit because you've seen behind the curtain and you know how it works.
I think it's just, for me, it's being able to kind of like be in not that the collab that we did, it kind of felt like, you know, being in a band and writing a song together, like, you know, with a couple of other lyricists and stuff like that. But I think when you look outside of somebody else who's doing the same thing you do, but, you know, maybe sings in, I don't know, a different, like maybe a falsetto or something like that, or how they can manage words in a way that is so very different, and how they can be very either succinct in like 5 words and you're like, oh my God, that's the most amazing spot on thing, and it's distilled into this magic, you know. And then you've got people that can, like you said, can create a scene and encapsulate all of the senses, and just kind of like if she's listening, Dreamer, I want you on here soon because we've got to talk about the way you can write a sex scene for like chapters. Girl, we got to break this down because I need to understand that process. So again, if she's listening, we're going to have her on at some point to talk about that. But
I think this episode is spoiler free.
It's all of these different ways of bringing something to life, or what you focus on in the story, and how it can be very different but still very beautiful, you know. And even your torment is beautiful, you know. It's the way you would like focus on the lyrics, you said, of a song that really kind of like gave you sort of like the scaffolding for junkies, I think, in a way, and what was going on with each character, and, you know, making me hate Dean in that situation.
So proud.
That's a triumph in and of itself. But then having to work that, you know, in your own mind too, as to how do I make this work? Because at the end of the day, I think mostly everybody's version of happily ever after might be different, but I think everybody wants that in a story, or wants a conclusion to be satisfying. And that's where everybody writes differently. And I'm always just floored by certain writers, just how different it is, but how great it is too, all at the same time. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we started out, it's weird, we started out in such very different places when it came to, you know, writing and finding fanfic. And even like you said that you were writing from a young age, and obviously Sandra's published a lot of original fiction in and around her fanfic. I hated writing when I was a kid. It was like consistent notes from my teachers, you know, when you're asked to do like creative writing and stuff. It's not
I
long
hated
enough.
English. Let's make that perfectly clear. I hated English class. I did horrible in English class. I was good in it, but I was one of those kids where if you told me what did I get out of this story, I couldn't tell you. Like I knew whatever I might have gotten out of it.
Fucking blow. Yeah.
Whatever I got out of it or thought I got out of it wasn't what somebody said, no, this is what you're supposed to get out of it. Well, why? So and maybe I just didn't have the right teachers for English, but I was in like an AP English class, like advanced placement, but I didn't like it. So for me, writing was more escaping reality and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I love now that people get stuff out of my writing that even I'm like, oh, okay. Like, because honestly, if you tell most authors what you got out of something, it might not be exactly like they didn't have that light bulb moment, but somebody else gets to have that light bulb moment with your work, or somebody pulls something else out of it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful that you can give somebody the opportunity to just, what do you get out of it? What do you see? There's surface, but then, other stuff too. I think that's great. I hated English class. I hated English class. Was not my friend. Was not my friend at all. Yeah. So funny.
Yeah. No,
right?
I didn't, because obviously we both grew up in the times before, like, when everything was handwritten, before computers and stuff. And they just still do handwriting stuff with the kids nowadays, but they can all type and shit. But that was the act. It was never like, I never struggled to create a story. It was just the act of writing it down. I found it really tedious. And I could always like make stories up in my head, but just writing them down, nada. And now it's funny. It's funny that we started in such different places, but we've ended up so very similar. Yeah. And I think that's a good place to round it off. That was our fanfic journeys, how we found all the various places where we were, what we were doing, and we've ended up together on AO3. Some of us writing nice things, and some of us writing some nice things, and then some not so nice things. But that is the beauty of fiction in its entirety anyway.
Absolutely.
So y'all, if you have a library, go visit your local library. Let's keep libraries, make libraries great again. I'm gonna get a blue cap. But make libraries great again. Go visit your local library. Go, relive some youth, depending on how old you are. Relive your youth. Go do the things. But we should probably wrap this up. So
we should wrap up. But I will say one thing. I really want to hear from listeners, whichever way, and we're going to explain how to. But I really want to hear everybody else's fanfic journey, whether it's as a reader, writer, both. Let us know when you got started, which platforms you used, where you ended up, and just that kind of stuff. I love asking our authors when they come on that question, but I want to hear from the listeners too. So yeah, if you and
also while we're requesting, if you're in other fandoms or you read fanfic from other places, let us know, because I am perpetually on the hunt for different things. So let me know. If I know Sandra's pretty consistent with Supernatural, but I like to mosey around and see what's out there. Let me know what other fandoms you are in, and give me some suggestions, guys. But Sandra, tell us where they can give us those suggestions. Masterful segue as always.
So they can reach out to us via email at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com, or on Twitter, we're at idlingintheletterdImpala. Yes, we're still there.
I was just about to say that. even though we both said we've taken a step back from Twitter, we mean our personal Twitter accounts that we hold. We are still very much present on Twitter under the podcast account. So don't worry. We'll, if you reach out, we're there and stuff. We just don't engage on our personal accounts that much with Twitter anymore.
And if you'd like to make your voice a mail, check the description for a link to send us a voice message. And then you can find links to our personal socials and our AO3 accounts in the description. And there's also a link to my author website and my original fiction.
You should go check out Sandra's original fiction as well. Also, We have a website. Go to idlinginthe.impala.com. That is where you will find all our podcast merch and various like other like it's all podcast themed, podcast related. And there's like YouTube stuff on there, Spotify stuff on there, like behind the scenes about us stuff on there, blah 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 blah. Go check it out, idlinginthe.impala.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a comment wherever you access your podcasts. You can leave comments on Spotify now. There's usually like a little poll that says like, what did you think of the episode? Yeah. It's there. But especially if you are watching or listening on YouTube, likes, comments, engagement really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. All hail its benevolence. In the description as well, current causes that we're championing, check them out. If you need those resources, that's what they're there for. If you can, you're able to donate to those resources so they can help others, that would be freaking sweet. But no pressure as always. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.